actually took this photo. I was feeling really good at this point. I was starting to feel like this was getting tough at mile 9 when I took this picture. And I took this picture because I wanted to slow myself down. I started to feel my hamstring tug a little bit around mile 8, and I was like, you know what? Let's slam some electrolytes, let's drink some water, and then I stretched. I think I stretched also just to make sure things didn't go crazy. Because I know in Buffalo, my quad seized up around mile 13, 14 in there. So I was like, let's get ahead of it. Let's get the electrolytes in. I'm starting to feel it. Whatever. So I took this picture and I sent it to my son, 9 miles in. And he writes back, awesome, or you're killing it, or something like that. And literally, I start running again. And I mean, I take a lot of electrolytes. I walked a little bit, and then I start running again. And when I say running, I mean like light jogging. And my hamstring just starts pulling. I mean, it starts pulling bad, to the point where I stopped 3 times to stretch it, and it was not getting any better. And I start thinking to myself, what am I doing? I mean, my thoughts at this point, because keep in mind my marathon track record at this point is quad cramping miles 15 and 16 last September, quad cramping mile 13, 14 in Buffalo in May. And now my hamstring is cramping at mile 9, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is so especially, I did have relatively good success in Buffalo. I was running low 9s, high 8s for 13 miles straight. I was killing it. And here I am cramping up at mile 9, very frustrated. And I start doing the math. And this is where, for me personally, this is where things start to get really difficult, because I start doing the math and I start getting defeated. So I start doing the math and I'm like, I'm cramping at mile 9. So I get this idea in my head where I go, I don't want to DNF, but I also don't want to walk 17 miles. Like, and then I start thinking, well, the cutoff is 5.5 hours. If I start walking now, like I did in Buffalo, there's no way I'm going to get 5.5. Like, there's just no way. And at this point, I'm at like 2 hours and 12 minutes because I had paced myself for that first half. I was trying to avoid this whole situation. So I had just texted my son, and I thought, you know what? There is a world where if the race organizers will allow it, maybe I can finish at a half and just be done with this, because this is going to be stupid for me to walk for this long. So I call my son and I say, do me a favor. Can you go up to the guy who's organizing the race and running the race? And can you just ask him if I can switch from a full marathon to a half? Because I'm already cramping up, and this is not, like, if I walk this, I don't know, this could take all day. And I didn't want to be there all day. We had a 5-hour trip home that we still had to do. So I'm looking at it and I'm going, time-wise, this is just not going to work. So hang up the phone. And when I hung up the phone, this was middle of mile 10, I think, because I was talking to him, I wasn't really thinking about it. When I hung up the phone, I realized my hamstring was like really bad. I mean, it was like, oh shoot, I had to lock my knee and kind of walk with my leg locked, because I could not walk at all. So at that moment, I take a bunch of salt pills, drink some water, and I'm coming to the end of my water at this point. Now, keep in mind, my strategy for fluids was to drink. I had 4 bottles of water, 4 or 500 milliliters of water, and it was going to be 1 bottle down, 1 bottle back, 1 bottle down, 1 bottle back, plus supplementing along the way with whatever they were giving us with the water stations. I pull the bottle out, the last bottle, which I had in my back. I pull the last bottle out at mile 11, and I'm like, so if they don't let me do this, I'm going to be completely without water for the entire second half of this marathon. I'm like, the math is not adding up. And in my head, I'm thinking, I might be DNFing this. Like, I might get my first DNF. And then you start, like, drove all the way out here, spent the money, all the training, all that starts to add up. And I even got so far into that pain cave, if you will, to where I was like, maybe the marathon just is not a distance I should be competing at ever. Like, I mean, it got that far down the rabbit hole. And then I was like, you know what this is? I realized, like, mid dark thoughts, like, I realized this is the exhaustion from being up all night and driving here. Like mentally, I could tell I don't get to this point mentally where I want to quit normally on a run, even in a marathon. Like, I know in Buffalo, I thought about going to one of the medics, but it was brief. This was different. This was like, maybe I shouldn't be running at all. Maybe this was only supposed, like, it was way down. And I was like, you know what this is? This is all that day piled up into one moment. And I was like, this is weird. Like, so I shook myself out of it because I realized that some of my fatigue wasn't just the hamstring, but it was mental fatigue from the day of the drive and things like that. And so thankfully I got a call back nearly in what felt like immediately. My son calls me back and says, yeah, the race organizers say you're good. I go, so I can just cross that finish line instead of doing the loop and we can call it a half. He's like, yeah. So I'm relieved, and it takes me about a mile to work out this hamstring problem where I can actually jog again. And I find myself, I think this group of 3 older people probably doing the half are kind of lightly jogging and walking. So I find myself behind them, and I start doing what they're doing. I let them get ahead of me, but I'm doing what they're doing. I'm kind of lightly jogging. And each time I lightly jog, my hamstring pulls a little bit. I walk, it goes away. I run, I walk, I run, I walk. So as I get to just below mile 13, it's like 12:8, 12:9. I was like, I would like to run through the finish line, especially since I'm only doing the half. And there was a moment, a brief moment, where I thought, you can turn around and complete this thing. And then I was like, you know what? The second I turn around, this hamstring is going to go sideways on me, and I'm going to beat this hand. And you got to remember, there's other factors involved. And I'm not making excuses. These are just realities. My stomach, I had taken extra gels, and my stomach was starting to turn from all that. Now, they had 2 bathrooms, one at the start-finish line and one at the 6-mile mark. And there's a part of me going, if I turn around, I don't know if I make it bathroom-wise to the 6 miles. So that's kind of in my head. The fact that I have to drive 4.5, 5 hours back home. You know, if I leave now, 9:30, I think I crossed the finish line. I'll show a clip here in a minute of, I start the finish, well, I might as well throw it up here now. I crossed the start-finish line. Let's see. I don't know, did I show? Yeah, I did show that, I think. Yeah, this is the last one. Let's get this. We're going to have to shrink this down a smidge. Let's do, sorry. This should be easier than it is, if I'm being honest. So here is me crossing the finish line. Oh, I see what I did. I made it bigger so that okay. So this is me crossing the finish line. It's going to overtake me a little bit, but that's okay. So this is me crossing the finish line. You can see I do have a stride, and you'll notice the timer says 8:58. So I crossed the finish line at 8:58. But if I turn around here and I go back for another 13 miles, that 8:58, that 9, that's the time of day. I started at 6:30, and this is the clock time of the finish, 8:58. If I turn around and run back, it's likely 3 more hours, which puts my departure time at 12 at noon, which means I don't get home till 5, which was actually kind of the plan when we first started out. But what I'm thinking in my head is that's going to turn into a very painful drive if, let's say I get to mile 16, right? And this hamstring's just like cooked. I'm just doing the math on all these factors involved, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just finish.
No quit, no quit, no quit. Building their wall, while they talk about us, all they talk about us. Educated, experienced, still not credible. So we embraced it. Now we're uncredible.